Hey, what's up my friends? Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Victor and I help people navigate through their awakening process. Today I'm going to talk about how to have self-forgiveness, how to actually forgive yourself. Anybody who's struggling with the guilt or to forgive themselves, no, it's not just a matter of choosing to forgive yourself. It's not that easy. Sometimes it's hard and you come to a point where you realize that it's just a painful emotional state you're carrying around, and you sense that it would be resolved quite nicely if you forgive yourself. So I'm going to talk about that. So I had someone email me and she was explaining that there was someone she knew who committed suicide, and she thought that she wished she had done more. Maybe I think she was explaining that she feels like she could have done something to stop it, but now it's too late and she feels horrible about it. She regrets her inaction. So I think as human beings, we all have situations that can relate to that, where we either did or didn't do something that had an outcome that has been done already. There's nothing we can do. It's too late. And yet we influence something in a negative way, whether that be by our inaction or something we did or said or whatever. So this is what leads obviously to not forgiving ourselves. So I'm going to talk about just my own insights. I don't claim to be some sort of guru expert guy on self-forgiveness, but I've done a lot of things in my life that I'm not proud of. You know, I explained I was a heroin addict, and if you guys have ever known and had like a real addict in your life, you know that they sometimes they exhibit behaviors that are not very good. So I'm not above that. So I have my own things that I've had to forgive. My wife as well. So I'm going to talk about some things that will hopefully help this person who sent this email, as well as anybody else who's struggling with this, because the awakening will bring to your attention anything unresolved. If you're not forgiving yourself in this situation, not that you have to go digging around, but your life, when it becomes relevant, will show you that you need to do this. You got to let this go, because it's the next step for you. And if you want to move forward, it's time to address it. So for those people, hopefully this video will give you some tools and some things to think about that'll help you do this more quickly. So one of the things I've learned and chosen to do that has helped me with this is to use an experience like this person described as a sign, as motivation to not do it again, to actually learn from it. Next time you sense someone might need a helping hand, and you can sense that, and you feel like you could help them maybe by saying something, I would bet you're gonna just belt that out next time, right? You know what it's like to hold back, then have where you wish you would have said something. So now you might find yourself saying it more. So sometimes it can take one negative experience to have an effect on your behavior, that maybe 500 more times in your life you're in a circumstance where you can sense someone's struggling, and where if you never had that big thing happen, then you would have probably kept quiet for maybe half of those times. But now every one of them, you're like, you know what? Been down this road. I'm not going to make this mistake. Yeah, I feel uncomfortable. I'm going to say, hey, listen, let's talk. I'm here for you. I can help you. So learn from it. Don't let that experience be in vain. You know, you can turn that into a positive in your own life. For those of you who have a lot of guilt, this one might be helpful to you, because I have an experience with this, as well as I knew a lot of people who did a lot of really bad things, and this is how we all dealt with it. So as I mentioned, I was in AA, and there was a time I moved out to South Florida, and I was in this halfway house called the Boca House, and it was filled with, there was like 300 members, addicts in recovery essentially. It's like a halfway house, and there's about 300 of us at one time, and this is people from all over the country, and it attracted quite a slew of hardcore characters, you could say. Really, really hardcore people. I thought I was like some kind of tough guy, hardcore guy. When I moved down there, it was a real eye-opener. There was people who who were murderers. They were just some really messed up people. And getting clean, a lot of those addicts, we found they used drugs because it helped them, because they had an incredible guilt. They had no idea how to forgive themselves because they did some really heinous things. But one of the techniques that's utilized in AA that might be helpful to you is what we would do is they would tell us to like go be nice and do something nice for someone else. That always helps. And you could do this in a very bold way. You could literally like go out and walk around and find a way to be helpful to a stranger, some sort of like true altruistic deed, or start some sort of non-profit, do something, some sort of action-oriented thing that will be of service, of selfless service to others. And that will help remind you of what's always true, whether you do this or not, that you are a good person. You don't need to walk around in guilt like that. But actually proving that to yourself can really help you not feel like such a guilty person. And also, it's nice for other people, obviously, as well. Number 3 is a self-inquiry technique where you just get real with yourself. Like what? Are you one of the few? Do you know a single person in your life that doesn't have something at least they regret, or something? Everyone makes mistakes. We all have regrets. We all are doing our best at this thing called life, and we're frequently painted into very interesting and challenging predicaments, and sometimes we don't even really know what the right move is, and it can be tough. Sometimes it can be really tough to figure out what's the right thing, and then sometimes you find that what you thought was the right thing wasn't the right thing. And so anyway, we all have those things in our life. So what exempts you from? So why you? Why are you being so hard on yourself? If I was to have emailed you and said something similar, I don't believe you'd look at me like a crummy person or a bad guy. You'd say, you know what, Vic, you're a good guy. You got this YouTube channel, dude. You're helping people, and it's obvious you're doing your best. You got a good heart. So lighten up on yourself. But you take your own advice. Don't isolate yourself from everyone else as different in that sense, because you deserve that same courtesy and leniency. And then lastly, that's sort of it, but just to share a personal experience, I've been in this exact same situation. I had a buddy, his name was Blair, and this was after I got clean. A couple years after I got clean, I moved back home to Michigan, and I was hanging out with some buddies, and this one guy, Blair, I wasn't like a super close with this guy, but he was one of our crew, kind of, and I could tell he was in a real bad way. He was always like a jock, like an athlete, so he was never into drugs like me and a lot of my buddies were. And I don't know how we got on the topic, but we started talking about like what's going on. He was talking about he was taking, a lot of people where I'm from were taking prescription pills, like a lot of them, like the addictive ones. And he was explaining, I forgot the numbers, but his habit was like really like crazy, like almost like I don't give a shit about life anymore kind of crazy, like I'm just giving up. And I felt like stunned by what he had told me. It was almost like a cry for help. And I don't know. I didn't really know what to say. I now when he ended up dying is what I'm getting at. He ended up dying not too long after that, actually, just from all the drugs he was taking. He was a young guy. We were like 20, 21, and he died just randomly on a couch. And I looked back at that and thought, like, you know what, to all my friends, they were like dumbfounded that I was able to get clean. Like, and when I would come back around, it was almost like they were curious. Like, well, how did you do it, And so anyway, I was maybe in a position where I could have said something impactful to him, but I didn't. I felt uncomfortable. I felt like it wasn't my place, and I just decided not to at that time. I didn't know it was going to lead to that. So I felt bad about that for a little while. I also have a situation a little more, not more severe, but equally severe. My buddy Derek, one of my good buddies, when we were living in Florida, we had this kid that just came to the Boca house. And again, it was like a freaking like school hard knocks. You really kind of had to like, not quite like jail, but you had to be kind of tough. You couldn't be like, you really had to like almost put up a little bit of front to not be like intimidated. Anyway, this one guy, young, nice, real nice kid, 18-year-old kid, he was like getting messed with and picked on. He felt all alone. But my buddy Derek, like, he was like me, he was like a nice guy, so he would always hang out with them and be cool with him. When everyone else kind of like said, I'm not hanging out with this little guy, my buddy Derek would always hang out with them. And there was a time they were playing basketball. Sorry, it's a real sad one. Anyway, my buddy Derek sensed that this kid was all like messed up, you know, like not in a good place, but he chose not to say anything. And then the next day we find out this kid killed himself on the train tracks or some crazy shit like that. And it was just like, it was very hard. But you know what? Sometimes we just don't know what the actual future ramifications to a simple, we're faced with decisions every single day, many times a day, and we do our best at life. And what I do know is that carrying around guilt is going to hold you down. It's going to prevent you from being the light that is trying to shine out through and break through that guilt. Not forgiving yourself is a disservice to humanity, because that guilt is not helping. It's obscuring the divine light that's attempting to peek through the cracks right now. So anyways, I don't really have, I guess, a really profound conclusion I'd like to end on. I just kind of wanted to, I told this woman I'd make a video about this. This is my take on the whole self-forgiveness thing. Hopefully it helps you. It has helped me. I don't feel guilty about those things that I talked about, because I know I have did all the things I mentioned. That has helped me. I've changed. I'm much more quick to speak up, even though it might be a little bit awkward if I think it's going to help somebody. Oftentimes I apply this in my video. Sometimes I'll make a video that I don't think is like my best performance. Maybe I don't look as good or whatever. But if it's sincere, that's like my barometer. If it's sincere, I will post it, because it might help somebody. Even though it might make me feel uncomfortable, I might put myself out there when I'm not looking my best after a bad weekend or something, but I value the potential of being helpful over, again, the preservation of my perfection ego victor. So I've learned from it. I do help people, not only with this. After my addiction, and I was always a pretty nice guy, most people would agree, but after recovering from my heroin, I really was more of I'm an introvert by nature, contrary to what you might assume with YouTube, but I was much more of an extroverted helper. You know, I really would go out of my way to help people because it felt good for me, and I don't know, it just for a while I felt like I had to make up for what I had done. But beyond that, it became just a habit, and I just live my life that way now. And lastly, I also question my guilt. When I feel really guilty, I will. Sometimes guilt is to say you got to be doing something different. You're like not living up to your own expectations. Many times it's just unnecessary from the past that's not doing you any good, and that I like to really pick apart with my own conscious logic. And I try to inquire within and try to almost convince myself why it makes more sense to let that go than to keep holding on to it and causing myself suffering unnecessarily. And the way I can do that is by learning from it. That's one of the ways I can actually motivate my ability to truly forgive myself. I find that self-forgiveness, it's natural. It's not something you can choose to do. And all those other things I mentioned in this video have helped me come to a natural state of forgiveness with many issues in my life that for a while plagued me. So anyways, thank you guys for watching. I hope this video helps you in some way. Thank you for all your support and your love and your comments and your likes and all the different messages you guys are always sending me. It's so beautiful. Thank you very much. I will speak to you tomorrow. Have an amazing day. Peace.